Hello and welcome to today's Our Kids Roundtable discussion with Lakefield College School. My name is Dave Darby. I'm Lakefield College School's Assistant Head of Enrollment Management. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today to learn more about LCS. I'm excited to be joined by current parents and past parents and an incoming parent, believe it or not, and an alumni. So we're spoiled with perspective today. Just before we hear from our special guests, I'm going to provide just a little bit of an overview of the school if you're unfamiliar with LCS. So it is a co-educational high school, and our students have access to 315 acres of fields, forests, and trails. We're located about an hour and a half, depending on traffic, up to 2 hours northeast of Toronto. We're incredibly spoiled by our campus, which is located on one of the largest lakefront properties across all of Canada in terms of independent schools. Given our surroundings, you'd be right in assuming that the school has strong connections to the outdoors and also sustainability. Just this last year, we're excited to launch a farm at our Northcop property, which is about 5 minutes down the road or an hour paddle. This has provided the students with an opportunity to obviously learn more about sustainable agriculture, soil health, food processing, in addition to enjoying our first harvest in the dining hall. The students also donated about 50% or over 1,400 kilograms of food from their first harvest to local food banks, which is pretty incredible. And then along with prioritizing time outdoors, there is quite an emphasis placed on creating a community and establishing a sense of belonging at LCS, which we'll hear a little bit more about today. And we have a strong history of sending our graduates to some fantastic schools, colleges and universities around the world. In fact, last year's graduating class of just over 100 students earned, believe it or not, over 1.5 million in scholarships and additional funding. So in short, I'd say the school works to prepare really well-rounded students to develop the confidence and skills required to lead happy, fulfilling lives, and to care about and contribute to the communities that they're a part of. So with that introduction, let's learn a little bit more about the school through the eyes of a recent grad and some parents. And I think what I'm going to do is start maybe with you, Suzanne, if you can introduce yourself and your connection to the school.
I'm Suzanne Scarrow. So Mackenzie, my son, is sitting next to me, and he graduated in 2020. We're from Montreal, Quebec. So LCS is a good fit for us because our kids went and did grade 12 with our school system, finishing in grade 11. So Mackenzie graduated in 2020, and we currently have another son that's in grade 12, Robbie Briscoe, and he'll graduate this year in 2022. And then our third son will be entering in September, and he's actually going to do grade 10, 11, and 12. It's just a really well-rounded fit for their previous education.
Amazing. And Mackenzie, we'll look to you. Just to let you, we heard that you graduated in 2020, and where are you now? What are you studying?
I'm currently just finished up my second year at Queen's University, and I'm studying economics.
Amazing. Thank you for joining us. Looking forward to learning more about your experiences. And I will now look to the Hansons. Jeremy and Catherine, if you could introduce yourselves.
Yeah, so I'm Catherine Hanson, and we have a son who will be finishing grade 11 and twin girls who are finishing grade 10 at LCS, all thriving and absolutely loving their experiences.
Yeah, we currently live in Houston, Texas, but we're from Canada originally, and I work for the Canadian government, and I'm just posted down here in Houston, Texas. So this has been a really positive experience to have an opportunity for our children to return to Canada and to have a Canadian experience, because essentially they spent all of their lives down here in Houston, Texas.
Well, we're fortunate to have your children at the school and for you to give us your time today. Mackenzie, you're in the hot seat first, and it's kind of two questions at once. So I'll share the full question first, and then we can break it apart. So it's, what did you appreciate most about the school during your time here? And the second part is, how has that perspective changed now that you have a little bit of distance from the school? So the first part was, what did you appreciate most?
For me, it's probably the community of how close every student and every staff was. So I had the great opportunity to be in Ryder House with Darren Moffat as my head of house. And then I also had in 2020, Santi, which was the head boy for the school. He was as well in my house, just a couple doors down. And honestly, every single time that we didn't have class, every student was together, having fun, doing activities, playing sports, whether it's soccer, hockey, or doing one of our arts, which is the dance or painting or something like that. And just having the opportunity to form the connections that I had in the short period of time I was there, just for a year. Actually, it was less than a year because of COVID, but I still talk to most of my graduating class now. So Lakefield gave me that opportunity to form those connections in that community. I love it.
Amazing. That was going to be my follow-up too, if you're still in touch, and it sounds like you are, which is great.
Yeah.
Part two to that is, has your perspective changed at all now that you've had a couple years, well, almost a couple of years away from the school?
Basically, it's the same. I've been taking the values that Lakefield has taught me into my life now, into university. So I actually live with one of my former classmates at the moment. We're actually in the same student housing at Queens, and we both take pride in being able to go to Lakefield and have the opportunity to learn what they taught us and bring it into the Queens community.
That's amazing. I have so many questions I want to ask, but I need to stick to script. So I will, and maybe we'll have a chance to come back around. Jeremy and Catherine, I'm going to look to you. Another two-part question. One is, why did you choose the school originally? And then just to build on that, in what ways was the school what you expected, and in what ways is it not? So we'll start with why did you choose the school?
Yeah, so I think most important highlight is we didn't choose the school. Our children chose the school. Specifically, Devin did the initial legwork, being the first to go, and we visited a couple of schools. He did overnight experience, and of course, I traveled with him. I got to tour a couple of different schools, but ultimately, is his choice. But I was personally rooting for Lakefield from what I saw, and the thing that stood out to me was, I recognized that academics was going to be taken care of no matter where he chose to go. But what stood out to me was the outdoors every day. And I just personally believe there's a lot of value in connecting with nature, spending time in nature, even if it's not obvious to you at the time. I think there's a lot of important value to be gained there. And if he could spend time in nature while he was going to school, learning in nature, I just thought that was a huge advantage for him, not just for his years at Lakefield, but in the future, knowing that he could recharge in nature. So that's why I was rooting for Lakefield. Probably the biggest thing that made it stood out. How was it? How did it live up to that? Yeah, absolutely. I've always been impressed by the effort that's made to learn outdoors, to get the kids outdoors. So I really appreciate that. It's met all my expectations. But how it was different was, I really got to see this with COVID, and you have expectations of a team, and you kind of see them when I went to tour them, things were going as planned. It's how they react when things don't go as planned. And what I saw the school leadership do, how they adapted during COVID, really was phenomenal for me to watch. And I just felt like, wow, our family is in good hands. They're doing some extraordinary things to adapt to a difficult situation. And that exceeded my expectations.
That's amazing to hear. Catherine, I see you nodding. It's always difficult to to add to the conversation. I don't know if you have anything to add on to Jeremy's response. If not, I'll come to you first next time.
Yeah, just quickly, I just want to say how inspired I am by Mackenzie saying that he still has friends and that he's actually housemates with a previous student friend, because that's really what we yearn for our kids, is to have those lifelong relationships developed, especially living so far away and wanting them to establish those Canadian roots, and knowing that the friendships that they're developing may last forever is truly inspiring. So thanks for mentioning that, Mackenzie.
I know, hearing you talk, Mackenzie, it made me, and I hear parents say this quite regularly, and guardians, is I want to do high school again.
Yeah.
And hearing you say that, I had one of those moments where it's like, I want that right now. Anyhow, okay. Suzanne, I'm actually going to ask you the same question. So with 3 children, why did you originally choose the school? And I wonder if it's been different for each one of your sons.
Yeah. So we chose Lakefield for Mackenzie, or Mackenzie chose Lakefield. The school that he was coming out of up until grade 11, he played a lot of hockey. And so there was an opportunity for him to stay in Canada, whereas a lot of his friends went down to the States and attended US prep schools to play hockey. Our focus was academics, and he happened to be an athletic kid. So Lakefield was a good fit, kind of to echo what Jeremy was saying about being outdoors, and he was able to play hockey outdoors and join a team and do all of that. So when we visited it, it was initially because of hockey. That very quickly changed when we drove onto campus and saw what he was about to, sort of dive into. So that was Mackenzie's journey, but also the university level advisory program that Lakefield runs is by far the best I've seen. And just the fact that these kids are coming, they're going into grade 12, they're having to do all their applications for universities, and that's not an easy thing to do. And they seem to do it with ease, and their guidance that they're given is just something that is, you can't get that anywhere else. So that was a super big piece just in terms of the academics for Mackenzie. Robbie, that is there now, he's more of an outdoorsy guy. He's not a hockey player. He's very academic. So the academics were a selling point for Robbie, but community as well. Just the fact that it gained a lot of independence all of a sudden, and just a nice entry into deciding where they wanted to go for their university education. Jesse, number 3 coming in, as a mom, Catherine could relate to this. It's going to be hard because he's that much younger. But I think it's a really good decision that he's chosen to take. I think he'll mature. I think he'll thrive. Community will be huge for him. It's just a really good fit. You drive on, and for me, it's always been about how, it takes a village, and LCS does a very good job of making everybody feel like family, and just, helping us raise good, kind, nice people is important to us. So, it's an easy one. It's a real easy one with Lakefield.
And it is amazing how, depending on the student, there can be a different draw. So I think I might have talked to you about this, Hansons. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this to you before, Suzanne, but I have a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old, soon to be 13 and 11. And for us, it's academics, obviously, but the arts program for my eldest, and my youngest, her happy place is nature. So 2 totally different girls, but yeah, great for different reasons. But Mackenzie, I don't know if this is tricky, because you went to LCS, and I don't know how much experience you had or have even had talking to grads from other boarding schools across Canada. But the question is, to the best of your knowledge, what most differentiates, do you think, LCS from other schools?
Yeah, so from my experience, I've had more experience talking to alumni from US prep schools, which mainly went there for hockey and other sports. And the biggest difference was that they were basically there for one reason: hockey, move on, done. They'll go into either US university, or they'll come back to Montreal or Canada and do a university degree there. But for Lakefield, it was more of the school experience for me, and not so much the sports. I really wanted to get my academics up. I wanted to have that opportunity to stay in Canada and go to university. And one of the big ones, which I learned, were Queens, Western, Laurier. That's where most of my graduating class ended up. And I felt that was a good opportunity for me to stay in Canada. And I also heard some problems with credits being transferred over. Most kids had to redo grade 11 that went to the States, and then do grade 12. So they were brought back here and had to relearn basically their math, English, everything that they already done. So for me to be able to actually advance and not be able to held back was a big selling point for me as well. And I really enjoyed being able to move on without being held back.
It's it's cool to hear you say you came in with your eyes on hockey,
Yeah.
and how it maybe even almost took a backseat to a few other things, which is kind of neat. I'm gonna look to you, Suzanne, next. You've got Mackenzie sitting beside you, and then knowing that there's your youngest coming in and your middle child here. What's the biggest impact that you've seen LCS has had on, I guess, Mackenzie, and then Robbie?
You know what? I think first of all, they have a different appreciation for home, what that means, and just the family. Like I saw 3 boys leave each other, or one of them left the other 2 in 2020. And every single time he came back, there was this, just this love and unconditional, like just this bond that is unbreakable now, where it's not that they didn't have it when they were living under the same roof, but all of a sudden family has meant something more to Robbie and to Mackenzie when they were away. They come back and our family time is just that much more meaningful. So, I've seen the maturity. They've come back just with an appreciation for their parents and, family life. It's incredible. Like, it just really is by far the best experience we could have cracked the door for them. And, they chose to walk through the door, but we have zero regrets. It's just made them that much more well-rounded. It's incredible. Yeah.
That's super cool to hear. I'm wondering, and I'm going to look to you, Catherine, with it always seems weird to call teenagers children, but I guess they'll always be your children. With 3 children at the school, what have you noticed to be the biggest impact so far? And it could be different for each, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure. As Suzanne was describing so eloquently, as parents, we really want to deepen and enrich the opportunities that our children are exposed to. And at some point, there's only so far we can go as parents offering those opportunities. And that's sort of where we got to with our kids, and realizing that offering them or helping them step into this opportunity at Lakefield was just, allowing them to be exposed to so many different people and cultures and opportunities and events and arts and programming that we really couldn't possibly consider even being able to give them a taste of. And so watching them just really expand into those opportunities and try things outside their comfort zone, which they're encouraged to do at Lakefield, has been a huge impact. We've also noticed that they come together as siblings. So they're at the same school, and the twins, of course, are in the same house, but different roommates. And when we see them come together back in the family unit, it is remarkable the way that relationship has changed. The respect that they have for each other is, there's still sibling, disagreements, but the way they interact is entirely different now that they've had this out of home opportunity to establish their own autonomy and their own independence and be their own people. And I just have one more, in addition to those things, another huge impact for us has just been to watch not just the maturity, but in addition, their ability to listen and have perspectives outside of their own. Sometimes they'll challenge those perspectives, and sometimes they'll acknowledge that those are things they had never thought of, and just really opening their mind to listening and hearing from other people with very, through the Harkness program and through the way the curriculum is taught, really listening to others and others' opinions and perspectives and thoughts.
I was going to ask what you attribute that to, whether it's Harkness or just kind of a general approach, or maybe all of the above, maturing as well.
Yeah, and the exposure to different cultures as well has been just a real highlight for us at Lakefield. Really, a global perspective on many things, experiences, opinions, cultures. it's been a very diverse experience and very helpful for our kids, I think, in terms of their lifelong learning and the way they're growing, to be really great human beings overall.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. Very cool. Mackenzie, I'm going to look back to you. A question you may have never thought you'd ever be asked. If the school were to be represented as a single person, what would its personality be like? So I'll let that sit with you. And it's going to be especially challenging because I'm wondering if you can wrap that personality up in 3 words.
Oh, 3 words. The first word that comes to mind would have to be respectful. Also a bit confident. And I'd say mature.
Respectful, confident, mature. Can you unpack those?
Yeah, of course.
What do you think?
Yeah, so respectful, I feel like that's just comes from the community, that the heads of house basically support all their students, teachers support all their students. And I feel like having those opportunities to reach out to other people builds your network and how you should be presenting yourself and how you should be caring for others. So that's why I think respectful was the first one that comes to my mind. I also was obviously taught that from my mother. So it's great to bring that in. And then confident, for me, the biggest thing that changed was my confidence, I feel, coming out of Lakefield. I was a pretty shy student going in, and obviously being the one of 3 new students in my grade. It was definitely nerve-wracking, but probably a week in, everyone was so nice, build up my confidence, gives you opportunities to reach out to other people that you wouldn't do. And that opened opportunities for me to go to university, to find jobs, that kind of thing. And I really appreciated that, what Lakefield gave me. And then mature, like I learned how to do my laundry, basically. So I learned things that I didn't think I'd have to. Even though there's a laundry service, I still had to wash some of my own clothes.
Some of those life skills. Sorry, go ahead.
Grocery shopping in town, leaving the campus with some friends to go out, going on road trips with all the students, having the coaches leave that how do you say it, opportunity for you to make your own choices as well, was very important for me.
It is. I'm so glad you brought that up, because some of those things, like doing laundry, tidying your room, going to get groceries, they're not the things that come to mind often, but I've heard more parents, and it's neat to hear you say it as university students, because I've had more parents say, I sent away a child and an adult came home. So it's neat to, I've yet to hear kind of a young alum say it. So thanks for that. It's amazing. And you said community and care, and the 4 C's, as you may know at Lakefield, are actually confidence, care, connect, and community. So it's kind of neat to hear you say that. So Suzanne and Hanson, I'm going to look to you, Suzanne, first. You have the benefit of hearing that question in advance. But what would you say? How would you say, if the school were a person, the personality it would be, and why?
I would loyal. I think loyal comes to mind, just in the sense that they all, Mackenzie had said respect, but they all are very loyal to each other and loyal to the community. Maybe a bit of a free spirit. Everybody has the opportunity to be who they are without, you see a lot of private schools that are, pretty narrow and guide those kids down the same path. LCS does not do that. You have the opportunity to be who you are 150%. And then I would say caring. I know it is one of your C's, but definitely caring. They're, the children, the kids, the students are treated like adults. Their house parents and the co-heads of houses take care of them to the same degree that I care for my children. So there's, the communication is key. We're constantly in contact. They're helping them make good decisions. If someone falls and maybe doesn't make the best decision, we're let know, we're communicated with. I think those are my 3 key words to describe the person of LCS.
And then Jeremy and Catherine, what words come to mind for you?
Well, I definitely have to lean into that word authentic, for sure. I think that really comes to mind and resonates with me with the school. The other ones would be well-rounded and capable. And if I were to unpack them a little bit, that authenticity, I guess for all these words, it's the example that I see the school setting for the students that are there and encouraging them to lean into and live themselves. And I just see that the school really kind of lays it out as it is. So they don't expect perfection. They know they're dealing with human beings. They know they're human. They're very authentic in that way. But they also set high expectations or goals to meet, to work towards. And so it's a safe place to fail and to grow. Well-rounded. I just think that there's so much influence, as global influence. We talked about outdoors every day. We talked about the farm. It's not just about academics. If I'm an employer and I'm looking for someone to work for me, I'm not just interested in somebody who's intelligent. I want much more. I need someone who can solve problems. I need someone who can listen. And the school really builds, I think you said this, Suzanne, the school really builds incredible human beings and capable. And so what I'm seeing is the school is capable of handling challenges and adapting. I mentioned that before, but it's teaching and encouraging our kids to do the same, to fail in a safe place, but then to figure out how to move forward and know that they are capable of accomplishing amazing things.
I'm sitting here excited for my girls, admittedly. So I may have told you, so I'm in my 4th year now. And there's something really rewarding about knowing that, when you take a little bit of a leap of faith, and there has to be an element of this when you're sending your children off to school as well, if they're boarding, and to move an entire family, you just hope that, everything you expect is as it you want it to be. And as a staff member, that's certainly been the case for the entire family. And I just, I'm counting down even more hearing you talk about the impact that's had on your kids. So, so going from, fantastic attributes and strengths of the school, Mackenzie, putting you on the spot a little bit here, what would you change if you had to change something for the better?
Something about the school in general?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a big sports guy, so I'd probably change a bit of the sports around. Yeah, so that would be my main focus, just because I don't know, I've been raised to play hockey, soccer, a bit lacrosse too, some track. So that's something that always sticks with me, being able to be a part of a team. And I would just change a bit of that, be more a bit competitive, harder practices, more training. That's the stuff I kind of like. And coming out of a school that was very hockey focused, I'd like to see that Lakefield, I guess, a bit more.
Yeah.
Not saying that they aren't as competitive, but just pushing the students a bit more on physically.
No, I've gotcha. No, thanks for sharing that. It'd be interesting. I don't know. Has Robbie had a chance to engage much with the fitness program at all?
Yeah, Robbie's pretty active in the fitness program. Like the fitness program changed a bit between Mac and Robbie, just in terms of the fact that there's a lot of one-on-one fitness. So Robbie's really embraced that. He's a sporty kid. He doesn't do the same sports as Mackenzie, and he's maybe not as competitive, but he's embraced a lot of it. I think for him, it's been really, really good.
I was sitting here thinking, Mackenzie, it would have been cool for you to be able to put together a little personalized fitness program, but it's part of timing, right? How everything comes together. So I'm gonna look to you, Suzanne, on this one, and you have a grad right beside you, so you might be putting words in his mouth. But what would you say your kids have to say about the school? Robbie's not here, but Mac is. In their words, what would you hear them say?
The two that are ones in it now and this one coming out of it, they regret they weren't there longer. That's one thing that they thought, this is cool, we're going to go for grade 12, but when grade 12 ended, that was a downer. I think they wish the experience was longer. Correct? Yeah, they would have liked to have that 9, 10, 11, 12.
It looks like you nailed it. You got the affirmative nod.
Yeah.
If we had the entire Hanson family here, what do you think your kids would say? If I had a chance to voice there.
First and foremost, all of them collectively would say that going away from home was probably the most important part for them, to be able to get away and have independence. And they would say that that was an excellent decision that we made together. They'd all say something different as well. And one of our daughters has articulated to us that she really feels like she gets to be herself at school, that she's in sort of a group or a collective that are somewhat like-minded and sort of stretching her a little bit in good ways. And so she really feels like she's found a home in the student body. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think when we listen, we just have discussions around the dinner table when we're all together. It's neat to hear how they're learning about what's going on in the world. And they're now framing their perspectives on what's going on in the world based on their direct interactions with people from all around the world, their personal experiences. I think they recognize, so do we obviously, but they recognize that that's a huge advantage that they now have, that they have personal connections around the world.
I often wondered, because I think of that as a staff member, what a cool opportunity for students to have literally international connections. And it's neat to hear you say, because I didn't know how often students, it's actually a question I haven't asked, how much they actually think about the fact that, they have friends around the world. They're introduced to cultures and perspectives that they might not otherwise come into contact with. So that's super neat to hear. Mackenzie, go ahead. What's that?
They want to visit those friends in those places. So again, I'm inspired by Mackenzie's, maintaining those friendships. It'll be fun to travel and visit some of those people in some of those places as well. Very experiential.
Yeah, for sure. Mackenzie, what do you think families would find the most surprising about the school?
Oh, probably just of how much the staff members care for their students. Yeah, so I had a personal experience with my English teacher, Miss McGrath, that being the new student in the class discussions, I wasn't talking much. And she would come after me after class, say, "Oh, what can I do to make it more comfortable for you, to get you more talking? What is it that I can do to help benefit you?" And I found that very, very impactful for my time at Lakefield. And then just also the heads of house. I text Darren, which was my head of house, pretty often. He just had his first kid. So we're texting him. All my buddies that I was with in the house, same thing. We just talk, and it's like a big family. And I don't think parents would realize of how close every student and every staff member would get. And it's honestly amazing. I loved it.
It's one of those things that I think it's easy to take for granted, and you just assume becomes the norm, right, when you're in it. But so JJ, the students just had a sleep in, and it was awesome. Basically, Miss Key came out and announced it, but she said, "You get this sleep in as long as I can hear you." And she was outside, and there was the theater and the chapel, and I think it was reverberating across Lakefield, never mind just campus. But it was pretty awesome. I'm going to play with the order a little bit. I'm going to come to you, Hansons, and I'm wondering if you could describe the values of the school and kind of the values of the families that you've had an opportunity to interact with. I know the pandemic has prevented, some interaction that you'd otherwise have, but how would you describe those values?
Yeah, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So certainly this year, Anne Marie was very intentional about describing the new value that was added, which was joy, to the list of school values. And it's true. I mean, as we emerge from the pandemic and there's more social experiences, more opportunities for the kids, you really feel that sense of joy. And when that's a focus of an opportunity, whether it be a learning opportunity or otherwise, that's going to be a really enriching, life positive, transformative experience. So to put joy at the center is, really unique and pretty incredible that the school does that.
Mm-hmm. We talked about a lot of different values in the school, but a couple of the things that are worth mentioning is just the strength-based approach. All of our children seem to be very aware of their strengths, and they learn them, and it's been pointed out to them, and they know them, and I think that's super valuable. And they value the strengths of others. They recognize and value that in other people. That's pretty important. Another value, and we've worked on this with you a bit, David, is also how do we embrace the challenges that are facing our country and the world. And I've seen this, really leaning into like the socioeconomic diversity at the school, and how can we have an impact on the Indigenous community and the challenges that we face with that in our country. And so what that really comes down to is leadership through action, and demonstrating that you can't fix things just by talking about it. You actually have to take action and do things, and that's hard and that's challenging. You have to be willing to take a little bit of risk. It's a little bit of fear because you don't know exactly how to do it. And I see the school really like taking true action. That's an important value that they're demonstrating.
It's definitely been exciting to be a part of that. And I'd also say, obviously school leadership is key, but support from families and alumni, board of directors, like all of that creates the momentum that's needed to make some pretty impactful difference and change, right? So I know you've been directly involved, so thank you for that. Suzanne, I'll come to you with the same question about values. And I wonder with the two boys that have experienced LCS, whether there's any different value that stands out or perhaps not.
No, I think it's they've come back different just people, but I think our family values just really align with everything that the school stands for. And Jeremy and Catherine both sort of nailed it all on the head, just with the joy and being aware of what your surroundings that are going on in the world. It just seems to be, when I meet other families from Lakefield, we all seem to have a similar, even though we're from all different backgrounds, we all seem to have a similar want for our children or desire for them. And I think I think Jeremy and Catherine just hit it on the nail on the head. Like it's, we all seem to be wanting a similar, we want the same things for our children. Like we all come from different backgrounds, different countries, but we all want the same thing for our kids. And we just want them to be well-rounded, kind human beings that also are aware and are smart and, are making an impact, whatever that looks like for them. I think we all are very like-minded and all very different. So it's very, very cool. The community is just incredible.
One thing that I find pretty neat is that there's without a doubt an element of like-mindedness, but also combined with open-mindedness. I think those two coming together is cool.
Yeah.
And can create a pretty interesting conversations and learnings. And it just so happens, hearing you both say joy, coincidentally, today is the day that we're updating one of our displays in the school block. I'm going to send you a picture because it's the representation of joy. And it's actually a timeline of pictures like a smile and individual moments of joy throughout the school's history. So I'll take a picture and send it to you. You might need to really zoom to see some of those. But Mackenzie, you have a really interesting perspective in that you were one of 3 grade 12s that came. And given that was your experience, someone either that's coming in to a similar situation to grade 12, and there aren't as many coming, or even looking to some of the younger grades and the new students that were part of the group that joined the year you did, what advice would you give to make the most of the experience?
Yeah, for sure. Basically, be open to learn. Be active. Be active in the community. Don't be afraid to talk to everyone else in your grade, upper years, lower years, anything like that. Get in contact with the staff. Join clubs, sports teams, everything that would get you around a group of people would be awesome to build that connection. Anything to help. I was thankful enough actually that Ryder House, we were a majority new students. And I actually had to help lead those students into some activities. So I was right away put into a leadership role, even though I was basically there for 2 days more than them. So I found that really, really impactful for me. It also gained my confidence with the younger kids, but to be more open and talking with everyone else, I really enjoyed that.
Good stuff. And then a similar question along the lines of parents. So parents that are watching this video, advice to them if they're new to boarding potentially. What little nugget of wisdom can you share? And maybe Suzanne, I'll look to you first.
Well, I mean, it was tough when I drove into Lakefield and unpacked Mackenzie and had to drive away. That was a tough moment, but it was also one where he just said, "Mom, I'm going to be okay." Like, yeah, it's something that as a parent, like, it matured me as well. It just allowed me to kind of give him to the world. It's a big moment. So for parents that are new to that, it's tough, but it's the best thing you can do for your child. It's honestly the best thing you can give them. It's a gift. It's a gift.
Yeah, well,
And I'll cry again in September, but that's okay.
yeah, well said. Yeah, I can really feel that. So when we dropped our son, he was the first to go, and it was exceptionally hard. And yet we were really holding on to, what, not about us, but what's best for him. And then the girls went, they were only 15 when they went. And it was really, or were they 14? 14. They were 14. And so I remember, like you said, sort of handing them over and just really knowing that Lakefield is a real family environment, and it felt safe. And I've had other parents ask, from different cultures and communities and countries, how safe is it, and knowing where it is and the safety of the campus and the safety of Ontario, and just the structures in place, were comfortable for us, and maybe for other parents may not understand just how safe and comfortable those structures are around Lakefield. But I do remember one of our girls, saying, "Mom, it would just be great. I know it's hard, but could you just be really happy for us? Because this is really good for us, and it's hard for us. We're homesick too, and we miss you too, but we know that this is the right decision." And it, as a parent, that the hope and the real knowledge in knowing that they're feeling good about it, and they're feeling, a lot of future focus in their own lives is just an incredible, sometimes heart-wrenching, but an incredible experience.
I'll add just one thing is that the experience at Lakefield is designed for the students to grow their independence, become independent, and you can just trust the school to do it. It's a safe environment for them to have small failures to learn through. And the only thing we've ever had to do, or the only value we could ever add really, was just conversation with our children to encourage them, to remind them that the school is actually only there to ensure their success. And so if they have any concerns or any fears, or that they're not going to succeed, or that they've had a small failure, the only thing they need to do is just lean into the school and just share that fear or share that concern. And then every time we watch the school just come around them and lift them up. And so for, as parents, that's just trust the school.
I think that's an interesting point, because if anybody has come out of a different private school environment, it's not that, that leaning into it isn't there. It's just so structured. But you're exactly right that it's LCS is there for the children. It's there for their students, for their success, and that that says it all. It just screams exactly what's going on that campus.
Mm-hmm. And Mackenzie mentioned, the care that you felt from the teachers, and we see that in the different way they learn and the different things they need and the different resources and support that they've had to ask for. And the teachers and guidance, the advisors and guidance, they just seem to know our kids and the nuanced ways that they do life. And interestingly, sometimes, I can learn from hearing about the interaction of our child in that environment. It's been a really great partnership.
I've just really enjoyed listening to each of your perspectives too. I mean, obviously I care a great deal about LCS as a staff member, but I'm even more excited as a prospective dad for my girls. And I know, looking through that lens, I just want to thank you for sharing your perspective, because as someone who lives and breathes LCS, I appreciated hearing an alumni and parent perspective. And I'm sure that those that join in and view this video are going to feel the same. So I'm feeling a little emotional, actually, listening to what everyone had to say, and a lot of gratitude for you spending this hour with us and sharing your perspective. I know it's going to be appreciated. So thank you for making the time to join us. And I'll just take this opportunity to also extend my appreciation to everyone that views this video to learn more about the school. And of course, you can reach out to the school at any point. We'd love to answer your questions and get to know more about you and your family. So please contact us at lcs.on.ca, or you can be in touch by email at admissions@lcs.on.ca. Look forward, Suzanne, Hanson, Mackenzie. Hopefully we get to see each other sooner than later as the world opens back up, and we're looking forward to having some exciting on-campus events. So again, thanks so much, and look forward to staying connected.